Session to order. Our invocation will be led this evening by Councilmember Munson, followed by the pledge to the flag. Please stand as you are able.
Dear God, we meet here this evening to do the work and the will of those who we as mayor and city council represent. Sometimes we must confront terribly difficult decisions, and in making these decisions, we beseech you to be by our sides, helping us, the mayor and council, to see the might, the light, and the right, so that this city succeeds and our citizens prosper. God, you are the ultimate force for good, and your guidance will help us to be a force for good too, the best that we can be on behalf of Hagerstown. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Just a few announcements. The rules of procedure we are operating under were adopted on September 24th, 2013. Use of cell phones during meetings is restricted. All correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk and should include a copy for the clerk for inclusion in the official record. And just to review our schedule for May, on Tuesday, May 3rd, we have a work session at 4 p.m. And on Tuesday, May 10th, we have a work session at 4 p.m. And then we will have a tax rate and budget public hearing at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, May 10th. Tuesday, May 17th, we have a work session at 4 p.m. And Tuesday, May 24th, we have a regular session at 7 p.m. There is no meeting scheduled for Tuesday, May 31st. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to appoint Kid Dietrich to the Board of Code Appeals, term to expire May 1st, 2020.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries, and Mr. Dietrich is appointed. At this time, we have, I don't think we have any guests to announce, but we do have citizen comments. Some folks signed up for that. I'm going to invite Mr. Jack Myers to come forward and speak first. And as he comes up, I'll remind folks that citizen comments are limited to 5 minutes per individual. Meetings are televised and recorded. Your comments will be on air and on tape and on YouTube.
I think Jackson seconds that.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Glad to be here, and I thank you for letting me come and talk about this subject for a few minutes, Senior Idol. I was telling the mayor that I'm 92, and this is the first time I've been in this chamber.
Welcome.
And this is beautiful, and I'm sure it was, and I'm glad. But anyway, the Commission on Aging sponsored our program for a number of years, starting in 2009 through 2014. In fact, I'm honored to say I won the first Senior Idol in 2009, and it was a great experience for me. It was. And the seniors are always asking me what happened and what are we going to do about a sponsor, you know. So that's what we're trying to do, get a sponsor to get the program going again. And it was a great program for seniors, both for the people that come to hear it and for the contestants. I think the last one we had 8 contestants, you know, singing for the Idol. And it's a wonderful program, and I don't know what you think about what you could do for us, but, you know, we need to find a hall and print up programs and sell tickets and like that, which we do have a lot of volunteers that are still willing and able to help to do these things, and I can assure you, if you decide to go along with me, it won't be a lot of money involved, you know. I would say, you know, just, I wasn't part of the management of the program. I was just in it, you know, as an idol singer. And but I can assure you it wouldn't be over $500 a year or something like that, as a guarantee even, you know, it wouldn't be. So any way you could help us, we would really appreciate it, okay?
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Joan Shoup.
Hello. As you know, I'm Joan Shoup, and now I'm president of the Women's Club here in Hagerstown. These are fellow members of our club. As you know, our historic building is located at 31 South Prospect Street, adjoining the Rochester parking lot. What you may not realize is that we provide housing for 14 women of limited means. The housing is clean, safe, and affordable for them, and it is in our building. There are only 17 parking places on our property. Our membership is presently 240 and growing. We hold fundraisers during the year to support our tenants and to help us care for and maintain our historic building. We also hold fundraisers for other charitable entities in our community, most recently for children in need and for hospice. These efforts, on occasion, require additional parking. For the past several years, the city has allowed us to use the metered parking in the Rochester parking lot without being ticketed. However, recently, that policy changed, and we are issued a $15 ticket when we use these parking spaces and exceed the metered time. We are the only ones that use the metered spaces, and the permitted spaces are used by only 3 or 4 permit holders. So essentially, it is an empty parking lot. We met with Jason Rogers and Eric Dykey, the city parking officials, and tried to reach an agreement that was suitable to both parties. They have offered to charge us $720 a year for the use of the 24 metered spaces that we would only use on an occasional basis. We are here to request a return to using the metered spaces as needed without being ticketed, and we would be willing to pay $20 per month for this privilege. We just cannot afford to pay $720 a year. The Women's Club is an asset to the city. We are the only facility to provide both short and long-term housing for women of limited means, and we have been doing so since 1924. We provide rental space for cultural events like the Potomac Playmakers, who have been using our facility since 1940. We work very hard to preserve our large historic building, which sits at the entrance to Hagerstown's original historic district. For this, we would appreciate some consideration. You also will find some packets of information that give a plat showing the relationship of the Women's Club building to the parking lot, and a copy of the letter from the parking officials, the letter that they sent us, and a letter that I sent the mayor back in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I did informally poll the council to see if there would be any interest in putting this on for an agenda, and at that time there was not. I know that you had recently had a meeting with staff, and
Yes.
this was the offer made. I don't know if any council members have any comments about the rate. It does seem like a reasonable compromise. I think the staff was trying to work some way of compromising with you, but I think the bottom line for the staff is that there is no such thing as free parking.
Well, I understand that, but right now, we were told that they make about $12 a month, wasn't it? That's the income they have from that parking lot, from the metered spaces. So for them to ask us to pay $60 a month, it just seems exorbitant.
Mr. Mayor, I have no problem with that. We can stop it.
Okay. Is anyone else interested in putting this on a work session agenda?
A work session agenda just to discuss it.
To discuss
Yeah,
it?
discuss it.
I have no problem talking about it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
We can get that
on a
scheduled
work session
in the
agenda.
next month.
Okay, thank you.
We'll get in touch on a date.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing. The final person signed up to speak is Brooke Harper. Brooke?
Hello, everyone. My name is Brooke Harper, also known as Dirty Politics, and I am a member of the Mason-Dixon Roller Vixens.
Did you say dirty politics?
Dirty Politics.
Politics,
yes. So
got it.
I do environmental advocacy and lobbying, so the name seemed to fit my alter ego on the roller derby track. Myself and about 30 other women in the city of Hagerstown are part of this league, and we have been in existence since 2007. Each month, or every other month, we host a roller derby bout at Turner Skate Palace. We give back to our community with events like Women's Build and several other charities that we feature throughout the year. And our upcoming bout on Sunday, we wanted to thank all of the city employees and all of our legislative leaders that help to make our city grow and prosper. And so we're having a city employees appreciation bout. We also have some MDRV merch and tickets for you to attend this Sunday's game. So doors open at 5:30, and you're welcome to join us. The game will start at 6:15, and come out and see some strong, fast-paced action.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
First of all, for the record, the total cost of the gifts you're giving us don't exceed $20, is that right?
No, they do not.
Okay, because if it did, we'd have to report that.
So would I.
Second of all, if folks are planning on going, how much does a ticket usually cost?
Tickets usually cost about $10. So
Gotcha. And I can say from personal experience, it is a non-stop, action-packed, fun-filled event. And it really does, I think it's impressive to see the women who participate in this just knocking the snot out of each other. That provides for a whole lot of entertainment and just goes to show that there's some women you just don't want to mess with. So appreciate you coming here and letting everybody know about the Mason-Dixon Roller Vixens.
thank you for having us. Have a good
Sure
one.
thing.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone who did not sign up to speak who wanted the opportunity to make citizen comments? Okay, with that, we'll move on to the city administrator's comments.
Nothing additional this evening.
All right, council comments. I'll start with Mr. Alshire, and we'll work our way over.
Excuse me. So, obviously, there was an article in the paper the other day about the placement of the binding arbitration to be on the ballot in the general election. And there was a comment from, there was a number of comments in the article from folks from the city council side and folks from the union representation. And I wasn't planning on commenting, but there's one in here where Mr. Murray, who I believe is representing the fire union, responded to my statement that, bonding arbitration passes through the charter, amendment process, as one of your duly elected representatives, I'm not required to vote then on the legislative components that would put that into place. I believe that. Most primarily because I believe that that's part of the process in which you put me here for, you being the citizens, is that we're supposed to, as citizens, fellow citizens, sort of represent your interests, and the most crucial of those, I think arguably, over time, is the budget. So, when Mr. Murray says in here that by not doing so, I would be ignoring the wishes of the people. It goes on to admit, though, that part of the process in even getting these petition signatures was done so through dishonest scripts from folks in that process, a third party. And I think about that that notion that I wouldn't be carrying out the wishes of the people. And here I think, I get elected to office by fellow citizens, unlike Mr. Murray, I'm an actual citizen of the city of Hagerstown, unlike Mr. Murray. I'm obligated to review and make responsible decisions in that budgetary process, unlike Mr. Murray. And at the end of the day, what Mr. Murray is asking to be done is for a fellow citizen, duly elected through a voting process, to put a fellow citizen in this seat, carry out their representative direction, to instead rip that obligation out of the hands of this body and put it into the hands of an arbitrary arbiter who isn't elected, who is likely not a citizen, and who doesn't answer to a single voter in doing so. And I would hope that the citizens can see the irony in somebody like that saying that in order to carry out the wishes of the people, I'm going to take the entire decision-making process of your budgetary obligations away from the folks you elect to make those decisions and out of the hands of the wishes of those people who have that ability to vote, and put it in somebody's hands who has no obligation whatsoever, and no obligation to the actual wishes of the people. I would hope through this process, if nothing else is conveyed, is the clear irony between that statement and what that union representation is asking to actually occur, almost demanding to occur. The second item I had was I attended on Friday evening with my family the last mile of the 100-miler. And I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about the program. What I do know is this, and I said it at that function there at Fairgrounds, is that while we certainly sit up here from time to time and like to take credit for things, it is very clear in this specific instance that staff has recognized the healthy lifestyle and living interests that our residents have, and have made it a priority through programs like this, and have been successful in doing so. And there were probably 150, 200 people there, and a number of entities participating. And it was interesting because one of the individuals I was walking with, I said, what neighborhood do you walk around in? And she said, well, usually around my neighborhood in Sharpsburg. And so I thought that spoke volumes of just how far-reaching our staff can be in bringing folks into the city for the good activities that we're able to promote. The next item is you saw a report in the newspaper last week about the two men from Hagerstown that committed the robbery, stole some guns. In the big headline, Hagerstown men, rob home of guns. I look at the story and I look up the individuals, and I'll repoint this out because I made a point of it the other night. Two of those individuals are down from the St. James community, I believe St. James North area. I believe the robbery occurred up above Showalter Road in a neighborhood there, and I believe that the individual in which the transaction took place lived out beyond Cedar Falls in Hewitt's. And the argument from the paper from time to time is if you say it that way in a paper, folks reading it around here won't understand what you're talking about. I don't think anybody out there has any confusion about the three places I just listed that aren't in Hagerstown, where specifically they are. The last item is, while I was at the fairgrounds the other evening, I ran into an individual from the Softball Association. I had some questions about the lights. I don't know if anybody else has gotten those questions, but I would like to have some update from staff at some point on, not specifically just this venue, but the venues and how the leagues are obligated to handle the costs for lighting and for the electric associated with them to ensure that you know, they're being consistently applied. And so at some point, whether it's through this venue or directly with staff, just so I'm able to intelligently talk about it, you know, when those requests are made. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Metzger.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Myers. And if I'm correct, you're a World War II veteran, is that correct?
Yes.
And we had the pleasure of having you go down to Washington DC with us, right?
Yes, indeed.
And thank you very much, and feel free to get in touch with me. I think that we should be able to figure out how to do this. And,
Thank you for the banners. That was great of the city to do that.
well, we did nothing except say yes, and I know Councilmember Nye has done a lot of work, and we appreciate your service and everything you do. And the only other thing I have, Mayor, is every once in a while, Mayor, you can't make it to an event. And the first event that you asked me to cover for, which I've been so happy they never called you back and keep me coming, was to the donut rally race, which has been a pleasure every year to go out there. And so another one that you can feel free to not come to anymore is Earth Day celebration. We had a very nice time today, and I thank staff very much for everything they did. It was a very nice thing with the elementary students from Pangbourne. And I think it's meaningful, it's important, and I can tell you, as I told the students today, not only was Earth Day a big deal, your mom and I were seniors in high school when the first Earth Day came about, and not only do I have vivid recollections of that, but as I told these students, I have vivid recollections of the teachers that imbued us with what Earth Day was all about and what it means and what it meant. And I think that continues to be, and it was a pleasure covering for you today.
Thank you very much.
And I didn't read the whereases and therefores.
Oh.
We did it a different way and decided
Well, then it
they didn't
wasn't
need to hear
official.
that. That's right.
Thanks. Mr. Munson.
No comments tonight, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Nye.
All I can say is that there's improvements going on, and I think that code is working. I see people painting homes, people painting apartment buildings. Hopefully now that when the trash goes forward, as far as putting that in cans, that we may not have to wait until July, until everybody knows this is what they're supposed to do. Because certainly we do have heaps and mounds of it. Also, thank you for mentioning the military banners, because if there are anybody out there that is interested, the applications are downstairs at the front desk, and time is dwindling down as far as to be able to get it up by May the 30th. That's all.
Thank you. I just want to echo the thanks, especially to staff, for putting on the Hub City 100 Miler. It continues to grow every year in participation. The partnerships are really outstanding, and they keep getting really awesome prizes too. So there's a really great incentive to participate. And I think, like Councilmember Alshire said, it brings people in not just from the city, but really from the whole region who are interested in keeping a healthy and active lifestyle. So I'm very thankful to staff for continuing to do such a great job with those rec programs. And finally, I had the distinct privilege and honor of attending the Little Mermaid debut last Friday night, and I have to tell you, we are very fortunate to have such an awesome group of talented young people and teachers who are supporting them. I was, quite frankly, blown away by the outstanding production value, the acting, the singing, the sets. I mean, the whole thing from A to Z was just fantastic. I have to give a special shout out, though, to the young lady who played Ursula on the evening that I attended. I think her name is Nadia McLean. she owned it, and she really did a fabulous job. And really, that's not to diminish any of the other performances, but I was just blown away. So I think they still have 3 more shows coming up this weekend. I would highly recommend that you get tickets if they even have any left. So I want to give a shout out to them and tell them to keep up the great work over there at Barbara Ingram School. And that's all I have, so we can.
Mayor, can I
Yes,
just also, we
please.
collectively acknowledge the work of our firefighters the other night, and
Absolutely,
again,
yes.
suppressing the fire and saving a substantial amount of our downtown. And hopefully, some equipment that is badly needed, like a new ladder truck, will be here sooner than later. I know
Indeed.
there was issues.
Thank you for that.
Mayor?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
need to interrupt because I did forget.
Okay.
And I knew I was supposed to, but it's been a long day. One of our retired firefighters passed away, and his viewing was Thursday night, and that was Richard Jordan. And I did want everyone to know that. And then in that, when I found it out, I was talking to a volunteer firefighter. And I don't know if we acknowledged him or not, but it was Ed Bryan. I don't know if you could check on that, but I think he had 39 years in, and he retired, and I think last year was when he had retired as a volunteer firefighter. So I did want to say something on his behalf as well.
Thank you. Any other comments? Moving on to the consent agenda.
Minutes, Mayor.
Minutes.
I'm sorry.
Minutes.
Okay.
Getting ahead of
I
myself. We
interrupted.
have the minutes to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of minutes as presented for the mayor and council meetings held on March 1, 8, 15, 22, all of 2016.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzger, second by Mr. Munson. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The minutes are approved. Now the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that all the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Munson, seconded by Mr. Metzger. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion carries and the consent agenda is approved. There are no unfinished business items, so we are on to new business. Item A is the introduction of a resolution for the annexation of a stormwater parcel, 250 Eastern Boulevard North.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move the mayor and council introduce an annexation resolution for property located at 250 Eastern Boulevard North. The property to be annexed is approximately 1.03 acres in size and is intended to be added to and made part of the adjacent municipal lands.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Metzger, second by Mr. Munson. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries, and the introduction is approved. Item B is the approval of an annexation plan for the stormwater parcel mentioned in the previous item.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and council approve an annexation plan for 250 Eastern Boulevard North, case number A-216-01.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Munson, seconded by Mr. Metzger. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries, and the plan is approved. Next up is the approval of an agreement with Brook Green Gardens for the use of the Diana of the Chase image.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move to authorize the city to enter into an agreement with Brook Green Gardens Incorporated in Merrill's Inlet, South Carolina, that allows the city of Hagerstown to use the image of Diana of the Chase, which was originally created by Diana Hyatt Huntington in 1922 as a logo for the new cultural trail. I further authorize the city attorney to negotiate any final minor changes requested by Brook Green so that this matter can be concluded as quickly as possible.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzger, seconded by Mr. Munson. Any discussion? All I can say is, I've been to the Brook Green Gardens, I've seen this other Diana of the Chase, and hopefully they'll grant us the approval. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Motion carries 3-1. Next up is item D, the approval of a license agreement with Raymond Higgins for the use of the 3rd Street right-of-way.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for approval of a license agreement with Raymond Higgins to construct a driveway in the unimproved right-of-way of Third Street. The purpose of this license is to allow Mr. Higgins to construct a driveway to access the parcel on the north side of the right-of-way.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzner and seconded by Ms. Nye. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 4-0. Next up is item E, acceptance of a grant with Chesapeake Bay Trust, Maryland Department of the Environment.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move the mayor to approve to accept the award of $90,000 grant from Chesapeake Bay Trust, Maryland Department of the Environment for a watershed assessment of Hamilton Run that will identify additional stormwater projects that will advance the city toward our runoff improvement goals. The city's match is $15,000 as provided for in the FY 15-16 budget.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Alshire, seconded by Mr. Munson. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item F is the approval of a contract purchase order amendment 2 for Allen A. Myers LP.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve the final project closeout, change order number 2, per the Maryland Department of the Environment and city purchasing requirements in the amount of $154,306. The funding source will be the contingent MDE loan funds and/or water fund capital improvement funds previously approved by mayor and city council.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Munson, seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Approval is granted. Item G is the approval of an exemption from City Code Chapter 155, the noise for the fireworks at North High.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for approval of an exemption from the City Code, Chapter 155, noise. This exemption is being granted in accordance with Section 155-5M to the North Hagerstown High School athletic boosters for a fireworks display on Monday, May 23, 2016.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Metzner, seconded by Mr. Munson. Any discussion?
A goal worth having fireworks over.
That's right. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries and the exemption is approved. Item H is the approval of rain insurance policy for 2016 Western Maryland Blues Fest.
Mr. Mayor, I have been moved for the approval to purchase rain insurance policies for the 2016 Western Maryland Blues Fest. The following maximum amounts: $20,000 policy for Friday, June 3rd from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., $60,000 policy for Saturday, June 4th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Total cost for the insurance will be $9,991. Funding would be from the Blues Fest budget and the public functions account. 5% of the rain insurance proceeds would go to the Maryland Theater for their risk of the beer and wine sales.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Alshire, seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Approval is granted. And the final item is the approval of tourist area and corridor signage program.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move to authorize participation in the State Highway Administration program to expand their, quote, tourist attraction, end quote, signage into the city of Hagerstown, and authorize the mayor to issue a letter to SHA requesting the implementation of the plan.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Munson, seconded by Ms. Nye. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries, and we are adjourned. Thank you.